Welcome to our 5-minute Bible study in the book of Genesis. We're, of course, looking at the account of Abraham, the great man of faith. Today we're in Genesis chapter 16, and we find a bit of a misstep in Abraham's journey. Now, Abraham has received the promise of God that through him all the nations of the earth will be blessed. His descendants will be like the sand on the seashore, like the stars in the sky. And he's believed God. He's entered into covenant with God. But yet he's beginning to wonder how God will fulfill the promise, since he's now an old man. Sarah is elderly, past the age of childbearing, and they have no children. So in chapter 16, we see this misstep by Abraham. He decides he needs to help God fulfill his promise. He needs to give God a hand. Let's read about it. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children, but she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. So she said to Abram, "The Lord has kept me from having children. Go and sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her." Abram agreed to what Sarai said. So after Abram had been living in Canaan for 10 years, Sarai, his wife, took her Egyptian slave Hagar and gave her to her husband to be his wife. He slept with Hagar, and she conceived. Now, this is a strange story to us. We're just kind of unnerved by it. But actually, in ancient times, this was not uncommon. A lot of ancient documents reveal this was kind of a common promise. Sarai comes up with a plan. "I have no children," she says, "so take my servant, my slave Hagar, and take her as a second wife, a secondary wife, and have a child through her." Now, legally, the child would be considered that of Abraham and Sarah. But obviously, Hagar would be the real mother. You see what Abraham and Sarah are trying to do? They're trying to help God fulfill his promise. They believe God's going to give them a son, but God needs our help to bring it about. And so it comes about taking Hagar as a second wife, which will lead to the birth of Ishmael. Now, Ishmael is also a son of Abraham, and God will bless him and make him into a great people. But he is not the child of promise. And God makes that clear. You know, we always get ourselves into a jam. We always get ourselves into trouble when we think we've got to help God fulfill his plan. When we think God needs our additions to his purposes. Abraham is trying to figure out a way to help God out. But it just lands him in a lot of trouble. And for years to come, even unto today, there will be trouble between the descendants of Ishmael and the descendants of Isaac, who is yet to be born. It's always good to let God be God, and to avoid trying to help him out and try to fulfill his plans. It's a lesson Abram will learn, but it's unfortunately a difficult lesson he has to live with. So we come to the birth of Ishmael. Now there's a postscript to the story that is so wonderful. After Hagar conceives, the relationship between herself and her mistress Sarah deteriorates, and Sarah treats her pretty badly. And so Hagar runs away. It says, Sarai mistreated Hagar, so she fled from her. And the angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was the spring that is beside the road to Shur. And the angel said, "Hagar, slave of Sarai, where have you come from? Where are you going?" "I'm running away from my mistress Sarai," she answered. And the angel told her, "Go back to your mistress, submit." And the angel says, "I will increase your descendants so much they will be too numerous to count." The angel of the Lord also said to her, "You are now pregnant. You will give birth to a son. You will call him Ishmael," which means the Lord hears. "For the Lord has heard of your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand will be against him. And he will live in hostility toward all of his brothers." Now you see the tenderness of God. Ishmael, the birth of Ishmael was never his plan, but God in grace reaches out to Hagar and to Ishmael and makes promises and covenant with them as well. He will be father of many nations as well. Not the child of promise, but he will give birth to a great, great people. Hagar understands that the Lord hears us, that the Lord watches us. And then I love this next verse. This is verses 13 and 14 of chapter 16 of Genesis. So Hagar gave this name to the Lord who had spoken to her. "You are the God who sees me," she said. "I have now seen the God who sees me." In this moment, Hagar becomes the true believer in the Lord. She says, "You are the God who sees, and I have now seen the God who sees me." That's the kind of faith we want to always have. God sees us, even when we're in difficult times, even when the circumstances are against us, as they seem to be against Hagar. God sees, God knows, God understands. And faith is when we turn to Him who sees us. We listen to Him who hears us. Like Hagar, we need to say, God is the God who sees, and I have seen the Lord, the one who sees me. That's the kind of faith we all ought to strive to have. God's vision is never distracted from us. He sees, He understands, He cares for us. And our faith is in the one who sees us, the one who hears us, the one who protects us. Our God is the God who sees. You have a great day today, and I'll see you next time in our 5-minute Bible study in the book of Genesis.